the Shouty Show segment. This is, I think it's catching on. People are enjoying listening to the Shouty Shows with us. So let's get right to it. What do we have from the Shouty Shows this week?
I have to say, I've thought about it very deeply. And I got to tell you, everybody knows how I feel about Aaron Rodgers.
Everybody.
He has looked so bad. I've actually looked at the screen and found myself saying, it might be time for him to really retire. Because I'm not used to seeing this Aaron Rodgers. I mean, 6 interceptions over the last 3 games. No leadership whatsoever. Everything seems to be up in the air and a bit awry and off kilter. And when I look at Aaron Rodgers, in terms of talent, not resume, in terms of talent, I think Peyton Manning. I think Tom Brady. I think Dan Marino. I think some of the all-time great quarterbacks that have ever blessed this game. And what I'm seeing from him now is a shell of that person. And I hate it. It looks very, very bad. But he ain't the bad man that I know him to be. This year, he's just been bad.
No, he hasn't.
Nope. No, he hasn't.
People, I think, are looking too much at just, some box score numbers and the Jets' lack of overall offensive efficiency and are saying Aaron Rodgers is playing bad. This happened after the Vikings game in London where he was genuinely bad, but it's happened all the way through the season. Rodgers has a top 10 PFF grade this season. He is not playing bad on a week-to-week basis. The Jets' offense is overall struggling, and you've made the point that because of this unique dynamic where Rodgers might be, offensive coordinator, head coach, and GM in chief, he could get more responsibility and more blame because of that. But Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback, is just not playing as bad as Stephen A. Smith thinks he is.
Yeah, I am generally of the mind that, we don't work for PFF anymore, but I still believe the PFF grade is the best indicator of the player's contribution to production. And I would lean on that over things like EPA or QBR or passer rating or anything else. And this is like the one time where I might lean more into those numbers and say Rodgers might have more to do that with that because of everything else we've said. What if Stephen A. looked at Patrick, what if the Chiefs you lose the game to the Ravens in week 1, you win by a toe, you win by a defensive pass interference. I'm just saying, Stephen A., if the Chiefs were 3-3 at this point, because they're literally a handful of plays away from being 3-3 instead of 6-0, and you would say, I've thought about this long and hard. And Patrick Mahomes, 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I think he's done. Yeah. I think he's lost it. But because Aaron Rodgers is 40, and we all have it in our brain that when you're 40, everything it's got to be your fault when you're 40. Patrick Mahomes is 29, so he can't be hitting a cliff or hitting a. But if you just box score watched Patrick Mahomes and watch this Chiefs offense, which hasn't been that much better than the Jets, it's been different, but not that much better. You would maybe Patrick Mahomes 44.4 passer rating on Sunday against the Niners. But they won because the defense is unbelievable.
I mean, even just forget the record part of it. Aaron Rodgers is playing better this season than Patrick Mahomes. I'll just put that out there as a statement of fact, right? And Stephen A. Smith wants Aaron Rodgers to retire. He's playing so badly.
And Mahomes is the number 2 favorite for MVP.
And I doubt has said a critical word about Patrick Mahomes because the Chiefs are winning games, right? That's where we are with this. Is he playing so bad that we need to force him into retirement because Stephen A. can't handle it? No, that's an absurd take, one that you would rightly expect to come out of Stephen A.'s mouth.
Good shouty showing, though. Good shouty show. I liked how he started it with, I've thought about this long and hard. It's like all the other stuff I'm just, throwing against the wall. I'm not really putting the work in, but I did a little research on this one, and Rodgers needs to retire. All right, what else we got here?
I can't promise you Steelers fans that I will win you a Super Bowl. But I can promise you that without me, y'all not going to win a Super Bowl.
That's right.
What Russ did was remind people why he's a Hall of Famer. What Russ did was remind people why he got $242 million. What Russ did was remind people why he's a Super Bowl champ. Then he also did another thing. He told people things. He reminded us of things we knew, but he told us things we didn't know. He told Mike Tomlin, hey, you were right when you said you're not trying to win games, you're trying to win a world championship. He told Steelers fans, hey, I was worth the wait. He told George Pickens, hey, you were right when you said you are a top 5 receiver, you just need somebody to get you the ball. He reminded the world of things and he told us things simultaneously, but the overwhelming message to me is, I can't guarantee you Russ will win you a Super Bowl, but I can guarantee you without Russell Wilson, you won't win a Super Bowl.
All right. We've gotten to the Acho point.
God, we've reached the Acho portion
of the shouty shows.
Shouty show segment.
Welcome, Emmanuel Acho, to the
shouty
show segment.
The heir apparent of the shouty show world. I would say that's.
Oh, I mean, he is. I think it was like with chess, right? Like whoever was like the best at chess back in like the late 90s, he just hit a point where it's like, the game's passed me by type of thing. Like it's just expanded so far that he's no longer the greatest. I forget the exact dynamic there, but chess has just evolved so much that it's, if you were great 20 years ago, you're no longer great. Mm-hmm. Acho has that ability. He has the ability to push Skip, Stephen A. He could push them out of sight, out of mind with his ability to pull takes
You're saying
out of nowhere.
Acho has the capacity to take the shouty show world to new heights.
All I'm saying is he's Russ. In his own analogy, he's Russ, and Skip and Stephen A. are merely Justin Fields. Acho can win you a Super Bowl of shouty showness when those other guys are just game managers.
Well, he is a messianic figure of the shouty show world, right? He is the guy that's going to, with the halo over his head, that's going to take you to the new...
Right, the other guys...
The promised land.
But the other guys, like, they set the path, right?
Yeah.
And he saw it, right? And he saw it, and he was like, I'm taking it to the next level.
Never has a human pursued something more obviously or harder than Emmanuel Acho has pursued becoming the new Skip Bayless or
it's impressive.
Stephen A. Smith.
Like last year's one with, like the second USC lost their second game. And, you come out of the weekend, it's like, oh, Caleb Williams struggled a little bit. Let's talk about this. And Acho was like, he should sit out the rest of the season. That's a good one.
That was like when
USC's 6-2. He should sit out the rest of the season. Just get ready for the draft.
Yeah. That was like when was it Renner? Renner claimed that Dak should sit out like the rest of the year.
That was
years
his
contract.
Ago. Yeah, that was when Renner was trying to get on the Bachelorette and everything. All right, so what are we talking about here? So I've said enough about the Russ game. I think the best thing that Russell Wilson did was throw jump balls to George Pickens and let George Pickens be George Pickens.
Yeah.
But like the video that I showed the other day, like Russ is something like if you take away George Pickens being superhuman on 2 catches, one of which bounced off the cornerback that was 5 yards underthrown. Just take those away. Russ is like 14 of 27 for 160. It looks exactly like a Broncos game with Nathaniel Hackett. I cannot believe we all watched the same football game, watched him underthrow a pass that bounced 7 times off a corner and on George Pickens to earn him 35 yards. Watch George Pickens hold a corner off with one hand, catch the ball with the other hand, and that's like 100 of his yards. We watched that same game, and people come away with, Russ is, Super Bowl caliber. He reminded you why he's so great.
Forget Nathaniel Hackett Broncos game. It looked like a Justin Fields game this season without the rushing. Right? Like,
pretty much.
If you take the plays where George Pickens was 75% responsible for making the play happen, with Russ contributing 25% for putting the ball in a just about catchable area, right? If we take those passes away from him, and to be fair, there is a merit in simply putting that ball in the air that I do think is worth noting,
agree.
Right?
Can I just add credit for making the play? I'm just telling you, if Pickens doesn't make those catches, you're not mentally giving him the same credit for that.
But it's a different thing, right? Like it is important to note that his portion of that play is significantly less than George Pickens, who had to turn a bad pass into a good play.
Well said.
But there is a credit that belongs with Russell Wilson for simply attempting that pass in the first place, which Justin Fields often doesn't, right? And that is a notable thing. But if you do remove those plays, if Pickens simply isn't able to make miracle catches happen twice, Russell Wilson comes out of that game with a stat line that looks very like any normal Justin Fields game, minus the rushing threat, the Steelers presumably score significantly fewer points, and we're like all the people that were saying it was madness to go to Russell Wilson are having the exact, in fact, Acho is having the exact opposite take on that morning. He's like, I told you it was stupid to go away from the superstar athlete. What are you doing? Now you can't win a game. The Jets beat you.
Can we get what was his opinion prior to the game?
That would be amazing. But anyway, it is fascinating to me. I mean, we have gone 180.
Russ reminded us, though.
Coming into the game, there were a bunch of people being like, this is dumb. There's no justification for going to Russell Wilson over Justin Fields. Keep Fields in there. I don't understand what they're doing. We were like, I mean, it's probably quite similar, and I think there's at least an argument to see what you have with Russell Wilson, right? Coming out of the game, all the people are like, you see, this is why Mike Tomlin gets paid the big bucks. Look at this move. They win a Super Bowl now. This is genius. And we're like, it was slightly better. like a lot of the really better part was George Pickens. Like this didn't, so it's still really close. It might be marginally better with Russell Wilson there, but it's not night and day in either direction. And people refuse to exist outside of the poles of extreme.
And I would just go back. My whole point with Russ was like he might give you the ability to unlock the downfield passing attack. Not because he's great, but because he will make those throws. And right now you got the result. We said on Monday it raises the ceiling of this offense, I think.
But as we said,
we did see that in action, but not because Russ was like dropping dimes like he used to.
But as we said, George Pickens, who may be the best contested catch receiver in football, has a career contested catch rate of 46%, right? If he therefore, going forward, let's say we're talking two plays at the moment, right? His career rate, he hits less than one of those two plays on average, right? And if 0 of 2 hit, suddenly we're talking catastrophe. It's like the Rashid Shaheed thing, right? The Saints offense earlier in the year was relying on Derek Carr to hit every one of the targets to Rashid Shaheed deep down the field. If that happens, they cook. If that stops happening, they cease to cook.
I hate that I care about regression to the mean. Don't you hate that? All right, good discussion. By the way, it's going to get even more emphasized. They're playing the Giants on Monday Night Football this week, so more takes flowing next week on Russ. All right, what's the third one here today?
I feel like with Detroit, I'm watching this sort of adolescent boy, and every couple months his voice gets deeper. He's got more confidence. Few pimples, but then he walks out one morning and mom looks up and he's 6'5", 245 and has a D1 scholarship offer to Ohio State or Michigan.
Drinking 9 espressos.
They just look the part. Power, finesse, run game, effortless completions, win leading, come back when trailing. I don't see anything about Detroit I don't like. I just seen it for years from Kansas City. I'd never seen it before from Detroit. This year was going to be an interesting year for the Lions. Instead of hunting, they were the hunted. They're fine.
So I agree with most of that stuff.
Yeah.
I would just say as the analogy master on this show, I want to know where that analogy stacks up for you.
I think that was pretty good. Yeah,
you like the adolescent boy analogy.
I think that's not a bad. It's not a bad analogy. It's
couple pimples. Now he's 6'5", 245.
The Lions
tight end
have been a coming of age story over the last few years, right? They've been this awkward, child who was forgotten about, and suddenly they're a monster that you have to contend with. Yeah, I think that was generally pretty good analysis. Nothing I don't like. I mean, the secondary is a little concerning and grabby, and they lost the pass rusher who was the only real source of pass rush. As long as, if Goff plays like that, it might not matter. But
Cowherd says Lions went through puberty.
But I do think, I think there are reasons to potentially be concerned that will come back to bite at some point during the season.
So, yeah, I guess Cowherd said a lot of the same stuff that we said, minus the puberty analogy.
And that was pretty measured, pretty middle of the road. That wasn't shouty at all.
Oh, no, it was measure take.
Yeah.
It's a measure take. That's low on the shouty show scale. Measure take.
Good. Could we get like a shouty meter?
We should have a meter. Yeah.
It's like full shouty show, and that's like, it's relatively mild take.
Like Stephen A's, where would you put it? Like 1 to 10, shouty show is quintessential. This is Skip. Yeah. The standard, a 10 is Skip Bayless's, the standard that I presented last week, which is Vince Young and Jay Cutler are more clutch than Peyton Manning and
Right.
Tom Brady.
So
Therefore, I would
that-
take them. That's a 10.
So yeah, though that or when he was like claiming Tim Tebow is the greatest, like didn't he have at one point he wanted Tebow over Brady or something insane like that kind of thing? Or
People only remember him being a Brady guy late in
Right.
the years. He was always picking against Brady with like the new sensation. Yes.
or when LeBron makes his like 58th consecutive winning shot and Skip comes out like it's not great.
Yeah, not
that
that
kind of
good.
thing. That's peak.
Jordan would have hit a 3 instead of
Right.
2.
That's 10 out of 10 shouty show business. And then you get, down to the milder pedestrian measured takes. which
Yeah,
are-
like Cowherd's a 2 on this one. I think Acho and Stephen A are in the 7 to 8 range.
Acho,
earlier.
that's definitely an 8, an Acho.
Yeah,
Stephen A is probably a 7.
yeah. I mean, it's like forget it. One of those Rodgers. We watched the interception clang off of Garrett Wilson's chest. We all saw that, right? Did we all see that? Was Stephen A sleeping? Do they get up? Is it an early show? Does he sleep?
He probably didn't see that.
Through Sunday Night Football?
He's not even looking for that stuff. He's like looking for what am
Do you
I
think
seeing?
they just present him paper with like a few stats or whatever?
The interceptions? Not a chance in hell he knew how many interceptions he'd thrown this season.
He knows. He just said he had six interceptions.
But that's
last
what I'm
2
saying.
games.
Somebody made him read that out. Like, there's no way he knew that when he was crafting. What am I going to?
Oh, that's right.
About?
He crafts the take, and then they
Yes.
give him data to support
Correct.
it. I got it.
Here's what I want to rant about today.
Yeah.
Go away and find me supporting evidence.
Aaron Rodgers, turnover machine. Do you have any data to back that up? Oh yeah, he has 7 interceptions this year. Tied for 4th in the league.
Bingo. And if you don't, it doesn't matter. I'm just going to rant it anyway.
The interception leaders this year: Gardner Minshew, Jordan Love, and Patrick Mahomes. All have 8.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.